In the quiet spaces between thoughts, in the moments when the world seems to pause and reveal something deeper, we find ourselves standing at the threshold of transformation. The veil between worlds grows thin, and we begin to sense that there is more to our existence than what meets the eye. This is the beginning of spiritual awakening, a sacred journey that unfolds in distinct stages, each with its own challenges, revelations, and gifts. As we move through the early months of 2025, a profound shift in consciousness is sweeping across our planet. You may have felt it stirring within you, a restlessness, a questioning, a sense that the old ways of being no longer serve. This is not coincidence, but rather evidence of a collective awakening that is gaining momentum with each passing day. The turbulence we witness in the world mirrors the inner transformation occurring within countless souls who are awakening to their true nature and purpose. The spiritual journey is not a linear path, but rather a spiral that returns us to our essence, to the truth of who we are beyond the constructs of ego and societal conditioning. Each stage of awakening brings us closer to this truth, dissolving illusions and revealing the luminous reality that has always existed beneath the surface of our ordinary awareness. The awakening process is both deeply personal and universally recognizable. As Robert Anton Wilson wisely observed, the future is up for grabs. It belongs to any and all who will take the risk and accept the responsibility of consciously creating the future they want. This conscious creation begins with the recognition that we are not merely passive observers of life, but active participants in its unfolding. Through our awakened abilities, we become co-creators of a new reality, one aligned with love, compassion, and unity. The first stage of spiritual awakening often arrives unexpectedly, like a lightning bolt illuminating the darkness. It is characterized by a profound questioning of everything you once took for granted. The job that once fulfilled you now feels empty. Relationships that seemed solid begin to shift. The values and beliefs that formed the foundation of your identity suddenly appear hollow or insufficient. You find yourself asking, "Who am I? Why am I here? What is my purpose?" This initial awakening is both exhilarating and disorienting. You may experience a strange mixture of excitement and anxiety as you sense that something monumental is occurring within you. The familiar landmarks of your life no longer provide the guidance they once did, and you find yourself navigating unfamiliar territory without a map. This is the beginning of a journey that will transform you at the deepest levels of your being. And that's as the awakening process deepens. Many encounter what mystics and spiritual teachers throughout the ages have called the dark night of the soul. This second stage represents a profound confrontation with the shadow aspects of self and society. It is a time of intense purification, when everything that is not aligned with your authentic nature rises to the surface to be acknowledged, integrated, or released. Depression, anxiety, and a sense of profound isolation often accompany this phase as the ego resists its impending transformation. Jim Carrey eloquently described this experience when he said, "Depression is your avatar telling you it's tired of being the character you're trying to play." Indeed, the dark night of the soul signals the death of an identity that has become too small to contain the expansiveness of your true nature. It is the ego's last desperate attempt to maintain control before surrendering to something greater. During this challenging phase, it is essential to remember that darkness precedes dawn. What feels like an ending is actually a beginning, the dissolution of false structures making way for authentic expression, as Eckhart Tolle recounts of his own awakening experience, which followed a period of suicidal depression. "I picked up things, a pencil, an empty bottle, marveling at the beauty and aliveness of it all. From the depths of despair, a new perception emerges, one that recognizes the sacred in the ordinary and the extraordinary in the mundane." The third stage of awakening brings relief from the intensity of the dark night as you enter a period of exploration and expansion. Like a sponge absorbing water, you find yourself drawn to new ideas, practices, and communities that resonate with your evolving consciousness. You may discover a sudden interest in meditation, yoga, energy healing, or other spiritual modalities. Books that once seemed irrelevant now speak directly to your experience. Conversations with strangers reveal synchronicities that cannot be dismissed as coincidence. This is a time of experimentation and discovery as you begin to rebuild your understanding of reality on a more solid foundation. You are no longer willing to accept inherited beliefs without questioning their validity or relevance to your lived experience. Instead, you seek direct knowledge, wisdom that arises from within rather than being imposed from without. This phase is characterized by a childlike curiosity and openness to possibilities that were previously invisible to you. As you continue to absorb new perspectives and practices, something remarkable begins to happen. The scattered pieces of your exploration start to form a coherent pattern, revealing glimpses of your authentic nature. This fourth stage, which can be likened to the Japanese concept of satori, or seeing into one's true nature, marks a significant turning point in the awakening journey. 1. In this phase, you begin to recognize and honor your unique gifts, talents, and purpose. The confusion and uncertainty of earlier stages give way to a growing clarity about who you are and what you are here to do. You feel most alive when expressing these aspects of yourself, and you naturally gravitate toward activities and relationships that support this expression. This is not the ego's desire for recognition or achievement, but rather the soul's longing to fulfill its purpose in service to the whole. A woman who experienced this phase after the breakdown of her marriage described it as a powerful mystical experience. There was a spinning sensation in my head, and the top of my head seemed to open up. I felt a sense of being one with the universe. I was no longer the person I was. That person is still within me and carries me through life with a wisdom which still surprises me. This transformation is not merely psychological, but represents a fundamental shift in identity, from the limited self to the expansive self that encompasses and transcends individual existence. The fifth stage of awakening involves the integration and embodiment of your spiritual insights through consistent practice and community. Having glimpsed your true nature, you now face the challenge of living from this awareness in the midst of everyday life. This requires developing structures, routines, and relationships that support your continued evolution, rather than pulling you back into old patterns of thinking and being. You may find yourself drawn to specific spiritual traditions, teachers, or practices that resonate with your unique path. However, you also recognize that no external authority can replace your own inner guidance. As one spiritual seeker observed, the soul's mission is to discover what works best for you. Just because it works for someone else doesn't mean it is aligned with you. The goal here is to trust your intuition and honor your own path. 1. This stage is not about achieving perfection, but rather about developing the capacity to return to presence when you inevitably get caught in old habits of mind. Through daily practice, you cultivate the ability to recognize when you have become identified with thoughts, emotions, or circumstances, and to shift your attention back to the witnessing awareness that is your true nature. This ongoing practice gradually transforms momentary spiritual experiences into stable traits of consciousness. As your spiritual practice deepens, you enter the sixth stage of awakening, characterized by surrender and allowing. Having done the necessary inner work to dismantle ego structures and establish new patterns of being, you now recognize the limitations of effort and control. True transformation occurs not through force, but through surrender to the intelligence of life itself. This stage involves letting go of attachments to specific outcomes and trusting in the unfolding of your journey, even when it takes unexpected turns. As one practitioner describes, I was in a state of desperation, very annoyed with myself. There was something I knew that I knew but couldn't get access to it. There was something inside me that had to come out but wouldn't. I was pushing it further and further away. Eventually I was so desperate. I shouted out, "Somebody help me! Somebody dropped a blanket over me, and I've never known such peace in all my life. 3. This surrender is not passive resignation, but rather active participation in the mystery of existence. It requires tremendous courage to release the illusion of control and to trust in something greater than the individual self. Yet in this surrender, you discover a profound freedom and peace that cannot be attained through effort or achievement. You begin to experience life as a dance rather than a struggle, flowing with its currents rather than swimming against them. The cultivation of non-attachment becomes central to this stage of awakening. As you deepen in spiritual maturity, spiritual seekers begin to cultivate a deep sense of non-attachment and surrender. The shift in their consciousness arises from the realization that clinging to desires leads to suffering and dissatisfaction. You learn to hold all experiences, pleasant and unpleasant, joyful and painful, with equal presence and compassion, recognizing that all phenomena are temporary manifestations of the same underlying reality. The seventh and final stage of spiritual awakening is characterized by awareness and service. Having traversed the challenging terrain of transformation, you now stand in the fullness of your being, radiating the light of consciousness into the world. This is not a state of perfection or completion, but rather an ongoing evolution that continues to unfold in ever-deepening spirals of awareness and expression. In this stage, you recognize that your awakening is not for yourself alone, but is meant to benefit all beings. Your unique gifts, talents, and insights become offerings to a world in need of healing and transformation. Service becomes a natural expression of your being, rather than something you do out of obligation or duty. As one spiritual teacher notes, doing what you love daily is one of the highest forms of happiness, and by you committing to this happiness, you help to uplift the world. You understand joy is your birthright, and peace is your priority. This service may take countless forms, from creative expression to social activism, from teaching to healing, from parenting to entrepreneurship. What matters is not the specific form, but the consciousness from which it arises, a consciousness rooted in the recognition of our essential unity and interdependence. From this awareness, every action becomes a sacred offering to the whole. As we witness the unfolding of these 7 stages in our own lives and in the collective, it is important to remember that spiritual awakening is not a linear process with a definitive endpoint. Rather, it is a spiral journey that continues to deepen and expand throughout our lives. We may revisit certain stages multiple times, each time penetrating more deeply into their mysteries and gathering new insights. Moreover, these stages are not rigid categories, but fluid phases that often overlap and interpenetrate. You may experience aspects of multiple stages simultaneously or move back and forth between them as your journey unfolds. The map is not the territory, and each person's awakening follows a unique trajectory shaped by their individual karma, conditioning, and soul purpose. What is common to all authentic awakening experiences is the recognition that we are not our bodies, and we are not our minds. This fundamental insight liberates us from the prison of limited identity and opens us to the vast expanse of our true nature. As we awaken to this truth, we begin to live from a place of greater freedom, compassion, and joy, not because we have achieved some special state, but because we have remembered who we truly are. The awakening process also reveals that what we once perceived as separate aspects of reality, mind and matter, self and other human and divine, are actually expressions of a single, unified field of consciousness. This recognition dissolves the boundaries that create suffering and conflict, both within ourselves and in our relationships with others. As one spiritual seeker describes it, there was a witnessing awareness beneath the egoic mind. In the space between thoughts, I experienced glimpses of my true nature as consciousness itself. This awakening to our essential nature is not merely a personal achievement, but a contribution to the evolution of collective consciousness. As more individuals undergo this transformation, we create a field of resonance that makes it easier for others to awaken as well. In this way, personal transformation becomes a catalyst for planetary healing and renewal. The spiritual awakening process is not without its challenges and pitfalls. The ego, threatened by its impending dissolution, may co-opt spiritual experiences and use them to strengthen its position rather than transcend it. Spiritual bypassing, the use of spiritual ideas and practices to avoid dealing with unresolved emotional wounds and developmental needs, is a common trap on the path. So too is spiritual materialism, the tendency to accumulate spiritual experiences and insights as possessions that enhance the ego's sense of specialness. To navigate these challenges, it is essential to approach the awakening journey with humility, discernment, and a willingness to face all aspects of yourself with compassion and clarity. As one spiritual teacher advises, I think mindfulness and present moment self-awareness are the most important practices and skills you can develop to support your spiritual awakening. They help keep your feet grounded and your head in reality. It is also helpful to remember that spiritual awakening is not about escaping the human condition, but about embracing it fully from a place of expanded awareness. The goal is not to transcend our humanity, but to express our divinity through our humanity, to be fully human and fully divine simultaneously. This integration of spirit and matter, heaven and earth, is the alchemical transformation at the heart of the awakening journey. As we move through these 7 stages of awakening, we discover that what once seemed like a personal journey of self-discovery is actually a universal process of remembering our true nature. The spiritual path is not about becoming something we are not, but about recognizing what we have always been beneath the layers of conditioning and forgetting. As one awakened being puts it, you are having the same awakening experience as Christ, Buddha, and all great sages. It's inevitable for the ego to resist this in the beginning, but trust that. This recognition connects us to the lineage of awakened beings throughout history who have walked this path before us and illuminated the way with their wisdom and compassion. We stand on their shoulders, benefiting from their insights and experiences, while adding our own unique expression to the evolving tapestry of awakened consciousness. As we witness the acceleration of awakening in our time, we can take heart in knowing that we are part of a larger movement of consciousness that is transforming our world from within. The challenges we face: ecological destruction, social injustice, political polarization, are not separate from this awakening but are catalysts for it, revealing the limitations of old paradigms and compelling us to evolve new ways of being and relating. In the words of Glennon Doyle, in order to move our culture forward, revolutionaries have had to speak and plan from the unseen order inside them. This unseen order is the awakened consciousness that is emerging in millions of people around the world, guiding us toward a future aligned with our highest potential as a species. The spiritual awakening process is not just about individual transformation, but about the evolution of our collective consciousness. As we awaken to our true nature and purpose, we become agents of healing and transformation in a world that desperately needs both. Our awakened abilities, our capacity for presence, compassion, creativity, and wisdom become gifts that we offer in service to the whole. In this time of great transition, each of us is called to play our part in the unfolding drama of planetary awakening. Whether we find ourselves in the initial stages of questioning and disorientation or in the later stages of integration and service, we are all contributing to the emergence of a new consciousness that honors the sacredness of all life and recognizes our fundamental interconnectedness. As we navigate these 7 life-changing stages of spiritual awakening, may we do so with courage, compassion, and a deep trust in the intelligence of life itself. May we support one another on this journey, recognizing that we are all at different points on the same path. And may our individual awakenings contribute to the healing and transformation of our world, creating a future that reflects the love, wisdom, and unity that are our true inheritance. The journey of awakening is both the most challenging and the most rewarding undertaking of a human life. It asks everything of us and gives us everything in return. It strips away all that is false and reveals the luminous truth of who we are. It breaks our hearts open to the suffering of the world and fills them with a love that knows no bounds. It is the journey for which we were born, the purpose for which we are here. Which stage of spiritual awakening are you experiencing right now? If you have your answer, know that you are exactly where you need to be. Trust the process, embrace the journey, and remember that you are not alone. Millions of souls are awakening alongside you, creating a field of resonance that supports and accelerates our collective evolution. Together, we are birthing a new world, one awakened heart at a time.